Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Big Ten Mafia Show, part of the College Football Mafia. We are back with a full panel this week as I fumbled my way through going solo. We appreciate having Moen and Becky back. How we doing, guys?
Good. Happy to be back from Las Vegas.
An eventful weekend, it sounds like, for Becky.
Yeah. Becky had an eventful trip to Las Vegas. I was able to stay at home and get all the joy of Las Vegas by losing money on my phone. So
Perfect.
I mean, I still have chips left from the Flamingo.
Oh.
And we can. It was an interesting weekend in the Big Ten, that's for sure, and a lot of unexpected results. But I think some members of our chat definitely called it. I think it was Tony Lashin who called the triple West Coast win, and he was so close for it coming true. But early people stopping in. Earl Carr, good evening, my friends. Ryan Willie on Wisconsin. Solid win for Wisconsin. We will certainly get there. Illini Ted did us all a favor and put down those woeful Wolverines. And nothing pleases me more after hearing them crow after the national championship than watching their season implode. You take solace in other people's pain if your team isn't doing super hot. So that's where I'm at as a fan. Keep chopping. Michigan started quarterback will be determined by rock, paper, scissors pregame. I mean, I don't know who's got a more interesting quarterback problem right now, Iowa or Michigan. Who would you have to pick between those two?
Well, I mean, Iowa doesn't throw the forward pass, so I think I would have to take Michigan. I don't see the difference in the two quarterbacks from Iowa.
Yeah, I was gonna say Iowa might as well just be called Army.
I don't know. Army's 6-0 and looking good doing it. They know who they are and they run the triple option. It's pretty sweet to watch. Yeah. Well, we could just touch on that real quick. In what world did you expect after all the realignment and crazy things, Army and Navy both undefeated and ranked? Is this 1947 or is this 2024? What decade is it, guys?
I mean, if Notre Dame wins the national title, I'm going to have to ask you if it is 1947.
Yeah, Notre Dame titles can live in the past, in my opinion.
That's where they all are.
True. I think that would be Moen. Is that only one rung down from Michigan winning it last year for you? Would be Notre Dame.
I couldn't stand it. I am rooting for everybody on Notre Dame's schedule to keep them out of the playoffs.
All right. Well, we shall see. First year of the 12 team, and anything is possible. Bob Swanger, good evening, my friend, show contributor and friend, host or helping co-host the Big 12 Mafia Show. Daniel Gygax, hello. Clay Johnson stopping in Go Blue. We didn't mean to pick on you so early, Clay, but I mean, you did all that crowing after the national championship. You got to take it when the pendulum swings the other way. That's part of the game. Coy, hello all. Let's go Illini. Absolutely. Yeah, Tony Lashin picked all three West Coast teams, and unfortunately USC blew up his trifecta. So, Moen, if you could throw up the weekend results, we can hop right into it. There was a lot of it was similar to the week before, a lot of close games and then several blowouts that were totally one-sided.
I will do that. By the way, I would like to congratulate UCLA on their first win as a member of the Big Ten Conference, as I am wearing my UCLA hat that I purchased in celebration. Congratulations, Bruins. Sorry, keep chopping. I know that's your team, but we can start with Oregon, Purdue.
Let's start with.
I mean, Oregon had it handled. Dylan Gabriel looked solid. There was really no questions in this game. It was Purdue, especially with the UCLA win, I think has cemented themselves as the last place team in the conference. And Oregon handled business. Mo, and I think we like double reverse jinxed Oregon as far as the spoiler makers, because we talked about it even as far as before the season, and it seems inevitable that they would make us all look like fools.
I blame their head coach. I think it was the wrong hire. I think this is all Ryan Walters' fault.
Certainly not doing them any favors. Becky, were you able to catch this one, and did you witness any Duck fans crowing about it over your weekend in Vegas?
There were a lot of Duck fans I mean, it's weird. Anybody knows this. You go to Vegas, and whenever there's a football game, every stupid jersey comes out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
Oregon's got about 1 million of them. So you just saw the plethora, the rainbow of colors, essentially, is the best way to describe it. Yeah, I watched it, and I have a couple friends who are teammates of mine who went to Oregon.
And you're still friends with them?
Yeah. It's kind of hard to escape up here in the Northwest. You know this. I mean, they grew up in Oregon, so at least they're not living in Florida and they're Oregon fans. No, did anybody? I thought, okay, coming out, short week, playing Ohio State, physical kind of game. There's a good chance Purdue could sneak in there. I stupidly forgot how bad Purdue actually is.
They took Illinois all the way to the wire and showed a little bit of fight. I didn't think they would win this game, but I thought they'd at least put up a valiant effort in defeat against Oregon.
When it was 21-0 at the end of the third quarter, I was like, Oregon's probably going to win this game. But, man, Oregon's just not going to beat them out. Oregon's not going to look great doing it. And then they boom, boom. And I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
So
they could turn on the Jets anytime they wanted against Purdue. They were just kind of running the clock down.
Again, though, I mean, it does show, like, Dylan Gabriel's great, but, man, he is very inconsistent at times.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And the Buckeye Duck rematch in the Big Ten Championship is looking ever more likely as the weeks carry on. Oregon's off this week. We'll get to the previews coming up, but they didn't allow the trap game to spoil them, and they're going to rest and get healthy. And down the back stretch, they got a few games coming up that might be traps for them. They got Michigan and Iowa both coming up. And weirdly, they have Indiana, which has become a big matchup of sorts for certain teams.
Well, I mean, at least this time they can last more than one game as the number one team. So.
Yep. And speaking of Indiana, they're 16th in the country. And how about them Hoosiers, Moen? You've always been high on the Hoosier trade.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is Rourke, their quarterback, did go down with an injury, hand injury. I don't think they disclosed exactly what it is. They just said he is out indefinitely. Good news for them, though, is the backup came in and scored 14 points on Nebraska's first team. Nebraska, when you're getting housed by Indiana, especially their second team starters, that's, can't have that. Huge win for Indiana. Bad loss for Nebraska.
I thought it was 14-0, and I was like, okay, Nebraska's just got to kind of figure some things out. They're a little bit better than this defensively. I was like, okay. And we've seen this from Nebraska this year with, this kind of get scored on and then nothing. I was like, oh, they'll figure it out. And then it was 14-7. And then all of a sudden, boom, 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 big play. And I was like, oh, touchdown. I was like, this is ridiculous. Indiana could score on them if they chose to. Indiana's like, okay, if we want a 90-yard drive right now on Nebraska, they could probably have done it. This was. Yeah. I have seen some beatings in my life watching college football. This was an absolute massacre. From the point that it was 14-7 on, Indiana put their foot on the accelerator and ran over Nebraska and just kept backing over them. They just kept going. Boom, 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 boom. They're just making sure they're dead. And then
I pretty much I was only able to catch kind of the first part of this when Nebraska was still in it. And Dylan Raiola, he was moving the ball a little bit, but I think this is the game where he showed the shortcomings of a freshman quarterback. When you're up in a really tough situation and you need to execute plays, he's prone to mistakes, and he made several of them. Despite the 56-7 scoreline, what really impressed me is Indiana's defense. They're legit. I know the Big Ten's, strong defensive conference, but they were really, really limiting just any ability for Nebraska to move the ball. And side note, I have to issue a correction. Coy is correct. Illinois is not, or Oregon is not off. They play the Illini this week. We will get to previews. I was looking at Purdue's schedule on the little pocket schedule. They played Oregon, and Purdue is on bye this week. So my mistake. But we will get to previews momentarily. Yeah. Well, we'll also get to the fact that in the preview, College Game Day is going to Bloomington, and they're hosting the Huskies. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a little bit of a chat about that later. But moving right on down, the one that we can all give a little bit of toast to our Fighting Illini friends there for dispatching the Badgers, or excuse me, Michigan Wolverines. The Badgers did good this week. The Wolverines, not so much. They got a massive quarterback problem, and I saw many calls for Sharon Moore to be fired already. Moen, are you just drinking it up like a fine wine up there in Ann Arbor?
Nope. I am taking Michigan as seriously as I am not sleeping on Michigan.
Wise words.
Come game day, during the game, that's a rivalry game. You throw all that crap out the window. I'm happy to watch Michigan lose, but I'm not underestimating Michigan. No.
I mean, they're not going to announce a quarterback this week, and it's probably a good reason. Probably because they're going to play whoever's fourth string. I mean, as I said at the beginning of the year, when they played Washington, the passing games, and I beg people, go back and watch that game and look at the passing talent between the two teams. You would not know that Michigan won a national title a year ago. You would not know that Michigan recruited top-level quarterbacks. It's terrible. And I mean, it's bad. Michigan only runs 3 routes, and everybody knows that it's coming. But they just stack the box now, and they just tell the quarterbacks, you can't beat us. It's pretty much what Washington did. They stacked the box and were not afraid of your quarterback. That's a problem in a major conference if you can't throw the football. I can see Sharon Moore being on thin ice already because he doesn't have a contract. So, at some point, he's got to figure it out. And Moen's saying, they're bad everywhere but one position, and it shows up. It shows up. And I don't know what to tell Michigan fans. I'm sorry. I didn't see this coming from the quarterbacks. Harbaugh was a quarterback guru. Anybody who's ever watched any team that Harbaugh's ever coached, it's a quarterback guru. He turned Alex Smith into an elite quarterback at the NFL level. I don't know what he taught these guys, but whatever it is, they've regressed. And it's just terrible. And to top it off, the defense is I think Marty Morenwig is the defense coordinator, and he is horrifically bad. There are a number of things that Michigan's doing, and I don't know why they're doing it. And if I'm a Michigan fan, I'd be annoyed because it's just things they never did in the past. The only consistent thing is they still don't get called for a ton of penalties. So.
Yeah, much was made in the offseason about how many players Washington lost on their roster, and rightfully so. I think it was the national media chose to kind of ignore the fact how much Michigan lost. And yes, they refilled. They have talent, but you have a national championship caliber team, and a lot of those pieces are gone. And it's showing that you don't just plug back in and reload and go again, especially coming with a brand new head coach. It does take time, I think, even in this modern age of college football, to reestablish a team and get new starters in place. Michigan, I don't wish I had good news for you, but your next 3 coming up are Michigan State, Oregon, and Indiana. The road does not get any easier for you. You got 3 coming back to back, and I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, it's hard to say that to salvage a season you might need to win 2 of those. But I think if they go 1-2 in the next, you're going to see more calls for Sharon Moore to be fired when you're talking about a 5-5 team. And that's shocking to me, but that's I guess the standard that you have up there at both in Columbus and Ann Arbor when it comes to competing for the Big Ten title.
Yeah, and give credit to Illinois. Illinois played excellent defense in that game. I think they ended up with 3 turnovers recovered. So congratulations to the Fighting Illini. Congratulations to Burt.
Absolutely. Whatever defensive woes Illinois had from Purdue running all the trickeration plays and scoring on them, they got it corrected. And I know that Michigan doesn't have a quarterback whatsoever, but they can still run the ball. They still got Donovan Edwards. They can still
Anybody else remember Brett Bielema at Wisconsin?
Yeah, Burt.
This Illinois team is 100% that model. Solid defense, okay quarterback play, monster running back. And that's pretty much what Illinois did. They just ran the ball down Michigan's throat.
Yep.
And then they play keep away, and it works. I mean, they don't have the talent. Like we could say it all day. Nobody outside of Oregon or Ohio State and Penn State in the conference, maybe USC, has the talent that Michigan has on their team. Illinois just played keep away the whole day. Said, nah, we're good. And if you can't throw the football, you play right into their hands.
Yeah. Solid win. We, full credit to Illinois. I mean, it was a pretty handy win in the end. I mean, but it's Michigan. You're worried the whole time that they could break one open and make it close and just kind of grind. But Illinois really held them in check the entire game, and shutting them out in the second half, absolutely very, very strong win. Moving on back to Wisconsin and our friend Ryan Willie. The Badgers, they look good. Northwestern's, playing on the lake, it's a lot of fun, but they're not a good team. You got to put them away, and they handled business. They just nothing spectacular that I saw. Even looking, I wasn't able to catch a lot of this game, but just made the plays you needed to, march down the field, get some scores, and you held Northwestern completely in check. I did see that their strength and conditioning coach made a deal with them that if they got the road win, he'd jump into the lake, and he was true to his word. He hopped off the rocks straight into the lake after the game, which is a lot of fun. But Wisconsin looked good. Get right game, get back on track, and let me see who Wisconsin's got coming up this week. They are Penn State. Yeah, big one this week. You're hosting Penn State, so it's good to get a solid win under your belt, get right, because I know there's some tough games coming down the stretch.
Also, talking about Brett Bielema's Wisconsin, that Wisconsin team looked a lot like Brett Bielema's. They ran the ball like 40 times for like 200 yards. They had more rushing yards than passing yards. This is an air raid offense, Moen.
Yeah,
right?
They're winning with defense too. They've got a stout defense. Luke Fickell has made adjustments, and they've won 3 in a row. So look out, Penn State.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, like on Northwestern side, they're bad. They're just bad. They don't do much great. I mean, I watched them in person play Washington. They were nothing. I was like, they made Washington's defense like the greatest thing in the country. I mean, they couldn't move the ball. They couldn't score. They don't score. This is the second game this year where they haven't scored a touchdown.
Yeah, they're just
that I know of.
and I told this to you. He was asking earlier today about their former OC. It's hard to get kids to come play at Northwestern, especially with the academic standards. It is very much like Stanford is out west. It's in order to get in there, you have to be very academically gifted. You can't. You're not going to get many superstars there at Northwestern.
Yeah,
but
I mean, if you go look at
Stanford can get 5-star kids to go there.
I think
that's can't get more than a 3.
That's You're in the Bay Area versus Chicago on the lake.
True.
Yeah. If you look at all the recruiting trail things, you see a ton of recruits. They release their 5 schools or whatever. You'll see Northwestern, Duke, and Stanford stacked together a lot. Those are the kind of kids they're competing for. And Jim Harbaugh proved you can win at a Stanford. You get the right coach and you utilize the talent you have. They always had really good tight ends and good running backs. And that could suit Northwestern well in the future, but right now they're not quite putting it together.
Well, I get it. I mean, I don't know how Northwestern recruits, but I know under Harbaugh and Shaw, Stanford didn't recruit a kid unless they knew the kid could get into the school. So they'd have to get the kid's grades from the school, and then they would initiate the actual recruiting process.
Yeah.
Maybe Northwestern needs to go that route, but I mean, Notre Dame has strict standards as well. And Stanford technically has loosened their standards, which not a lot of people know. So maybe Northwestern may have to do a little bit of the loosening themselves, and they can get some of these transfers to kind of roll in. What do you think, Vaughn?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's a first year for Braun. He did a good job as an interim last season. He got the full-time job. we'll have to wait and see once he can get some players recruited. I know it was tough recruiting last year with all the Pat Fitzgerald stuff and the lawsuits. So,
yeah, schools like schools like Northwestern, it seems like they have a little bit more patience. They know that they put more restrictions on their coaches to get players and get transfers, especially transfers tend to be really restrictive at schools because you're talking about kids applying to grad programs at these high-end universities. So get him a few years, see if he can make something out of it. I mean, what was it? A season or two ago, Wisconsin had 8 wins. It's possible there. Am I misremembering that, Moen?
Northwestern last year, they were bowl eligible, and I believe they won their bowl game with their interim coach.
Yeah. Northwestern, I mean, they were pissed last year with the whole, scandal revealed by, I think it was a student newspaper. But that emotion you can only ride it so long, because last year they were the dandies of the conference when they won that bowl game. So same thing this year. You can't carry it over, but I mean, they did beat a pretty good Utah squad last year in that bowl game. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. Tony Walashon pointing out, apologies, people, I'm on triple dad duty. I got my twins and my son by myself tonight, so pray for me. If you hear a little background noise, it sounded like my son said Wisconsin stinks and I'm a good dad. I don't think that's what he said, but if it makes you feel better, Tony, sure. The Badgers got the win this week, so I know you'll take any Wisconsin smack talk you can get, but I'll leave the Badger hate to you, my friend. Moving on down, my immediate thought when I saw this game and the way it played out is anyone in this conference can beat anyone on a given week. It just has to have the right scenario, the right players, the right time. Even Oregon, even Ohio State. I don't think anyone is untouchable. And Rutgers, I mean, the Huskies couldn't get it done at Piscataway, but UCLA goes even further across the country and breaks the trend. And they showed, if you didn't know this, UCLA recruits some high-end athletes. They don't always put it together, but they got a few 4- and 5-star kids on that team, even if they're terrible, because they're in Los Angeles. And they can beat you. And Ethan Garbers, he was originally a UW commit. We're very familiar with him. He has all the ability, but he's prone to mistakes. When he doesn't make mistakes, they can hurt you. And they absolutely did to a Rutgers defense that prides itself on being pretty tough.
Yeah. I just want to put this out here. Rutgers, they rallied late, but it was too little too late.
Yeah.
Their defense really looked almost amateurish during certain drives from UCLA. And Rutgers has a short week. And not only do they have a short week, they're flying. They just faced a team from LA. Now they're flying to LA to play USC at 11 p.m. Rutgers time.
Yeah. I didn't believe this score. I didn't watch a single play of it other than I saw the highlight where Ethan Garber suddenly looked like Mike Vick running down the sidelines.
Yes. It was wild.
It was insane. I mean, well, let's be blunt. They didn't look great against UW. They really did not look good against Washington. It took Washington giving that game to Rutgers to beat Washington. I mean, the penalties, the idiot running on the field, a whole bunch of mistakes by Washington to let Rutgers win that game. UCLA made no mistakes and then just beat the brakes off them. In fact, it was so bad that somebody showed me the score and I called him a liar because I didn't believe it.
Yeah, keep chopping before you just say we're just bitter Husky fans. We did miss 3 kicks in that game, and it was a 3-point game. So we're not trying to totally dog on Rutgers.
No,
they played well and deserved to win, in my opinion. But it was a close game, and I think Rutgers showed some holes. I thought Rutgers they've been putting it together and kind of plugging along, and I thought they had this game in hand. I really thought their defense would hold UCLA to less than 20 points.
Yeah, I thought their defense, like UCLA hasn't done crap offensively.
Yeah.
So.
Mo, you still got hope for Rutgers?
They were your dandy. They were your dandy at the beginning of the year, Rutgers.
Rutgers is 4-3 right now. In previous seasons, Rutgers would be entering here 1-6. I think that speaks for itself. That Rutgers is actually pulling itself up from where it used to be. Now the question is, can they go to USC and beat USC? Because USC has had a hell of a time with Big Ten teams.
Yeah, keep chopping. It's a tough sled. They put you in the worst possible situation, going cross country, super late local time on a Friday on a short week. But you got a bye week after, so leave it all on the field. And USC is beatable, as Maryland proved. And I saw some heads rolling about Lincoln Riley in Los Angeles. And if you're not familiar with Lincoln Riley, which me and Becky are, this is not surprising. He makes Heisman winners. He does not make playoff contenders. This is his MO. USC is more hype than anyone under the sun and has little to show for it in recent seasons. Moen, what do you make of the Terrapins making me look like a fool? How much trash I was talking about them and playing poorly in October and November and beating the USC Trojans this week.
To be fair to USC, most of their wins or most of their losses have been very close. This one not, excluded. 1 point. It was 1 point that, Maryland, good for Maryland. Maryland's a tough team at home. USC, you just got to figure shit out. I mean, you cannot have the kind of talent you have fly across the country to Maryland and lose by 1 point. We could go back and look at all their games this season. I think they've lost 3 of their games that they've dropped have been by 3 points or less.
Yeah. I mean, the Penn State, okay, I'll be blunt. That was pass interference. Penn State got away with that against. Not to say Penn State might not have still won the game, but man, nothing has gone well for USC in a few of these games, this one included. But this one, it's like you were beating the brakes off of them. They had no business scoring 15 points in the fourth quarter to beat you, which, by the way, they scored 15 points because they said, screw this, we're going for the win. We're not going for the tie. We don't want overtime because you're going to beat us in overtime.
Which I actually like. I mean,
I love it.
Yeah.
Teams should play like this. You get a better opponent, and USC is a better team than Maryland because of the talent. You get them in a spot like this, you have to go for the win. Maryland did that. Like, USC gave this game to Maryland. They took their foot off the gas and got beat. This is the one time where I can go, this is on USC. You can't blame the refs. You can't say they missed this. You can't say they missed that like you did Michigan and Penn State. No. This is on USC. This is the dumbest loss I've ever seen. But why are we even shocked by this? USC was an 8-win team a year ago. Like, that's it. They won like 15, 16 games the last 2 years now. Since they were like 11-1 or whatever, they haven't won a lot of games. Like, none of this is shocking.
Well, let's put it into perspective.
Caleb Williams made them an 11-win team.
Miller Moss went in there in the bowl game and threw like 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They played LSU tough, and LSU's ranked in the top 10. LSU's considered.
Daniels didn't play, correct?
Well,
LSU's out. Yeah, it wasn't. They weren't playing the A team because Jaden Daniels was sitting out for the draft.
Well, no.
USC played him and beat him week 1 this year.
Oh, sorry.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is all on USC. This is all on them.
They were living up to expectations, and then they just collapsed. And I mean, they were up 14-0 on Penn State, let them get back and win. They were up 21-0 on Maryland, let them get back in the game.
They were up big on Michigan, let them back in the game. Like, it's like they forgot how to close out games.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if that's a Lincoln Riley problem. This is a confidence
I think it is.
problem. This is more of a confidence problem in the players at this point. Like,
Lincoln
Riley, they're still scoring points. They're still doing things.
Because it happened a couple times last year too. Like, even against Washington, USC led late in those games and let Washington beat them. We had Penix and it was a special season for the Huskies, but USC in recent years under Riley, it feels like they have these brain fart losses that they have no business losing. And it's usually because they either took their foot off the gas or just make stupid mental mistakes down the stretch. That the game seems like it's in hand, and then they just let somebody beat them.
I honestly have to question their strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the yoga guy? Is this coming back again?
Listen, they're losing games late. They're getting beat up. I mean, they're gassed out in the fourth quarter. Their defense is gassed out. They're letting offenses score points on them. I think you got to put this on strength and conditioning. I also think that maybe they've got some character issues there. Certainly, they brought in Bear Alexander. He wasn't happy.
No.
He redshirted. He's still collecting all his money. You've got a bunch of kids in Southern California with boatloads of money and legal weed. So, I mean,
that isn't the PSU Jim pointing out that, throwing in the fourth quarter, no matter what, that's a West Coast football thing. You might have to adjust to that a little bit. And when it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. But
they're an air raid offense. People forget they're an air raid offense. Lincoln Riley is of the air raid offense coaching tree. They run.
Their running backs are an extension of the throwing game. You'll see a lot of swing passes, a lot of short routes. They can run the ball. Obviously, they have talent. They have big, beefy linemen. But I've always had this opinion about USC is that they have all the ingredients, but it depends on how you cook them up, because you get a lot of guys like Moen's saying, you get these hired guns, and I think that's a problem at some of these really, really big – my son's very upset with USC also. You get some of these guys going to USC that are basically, hired guns, and when the season's not going well, they quit on the team, and you see discipline issues on the field. I think we saw some of the same things at the end of that Alabama loss, that kid melting down as they're losing to Vandy. You get some of these players, they're just, transferred hired guns. You got to build with dudes that are committed to the program and committed to building it, and committed that even if you take a tough loss, you're going to come back next week and put in a full shift.
I mean, let's be blunt. USC's defense hasn't been great since Pete Carroll was there. We're not talking about a team whose defense last year was we're not talking about like a UCLA type defense a year ago. They got the defense coordinator from UCLA. He's running that scheme. They're a better defense this year, but they still are a bad defense. The same players are still there doing the same stupid things. If I was a USC fan, I'd be annoyed. I'm just annoyed that we have to talk about a team with more 5-star players than the entire Big 12 conference, and they can't put it together and win games. Like Utah goes in there with 2- and 3-star kids and just thumps them every year. And now they're doing it they have teams like Maryland doing it to them. Maryland's not good. This is not a good football team. They should have beaten them by 2 scores, and instead they let them back in the game. And Maryland, like I said, I love it, commended them for it. They went for the W instead of going to play for overtime.
I appreciate the boldness. USC is in a long stretch. It doesn't get necessarily easier because they got Rutgers, coming across country, and you're back at home. No excuses. USC, keep chopping. I would love to see the upset because watching USC lose is funny, but
especially in
USC, this is a must win. And I'm dead serious. This is a must win for USC.
Their backs
you cannot lose at home to Rutgers coming cross country on a Friday.
They have Notre Dame lingering late in the season at the end of the year.
By the time they get to that game, they might be so out of it that it's irrelevant.
They might be playing for a freaking bowl game at that point. They've got to figure it out. And I'll say this. I know USC fans have called, he needs to be fired. Even some former players are like, how is he still the head coach? Jen Cohen is the athletic director. She does not fire people. She's going to give him a chance. And I don't know what his buyout is, clearly, because it's a private school, but that buyout may not be worth it either. So he may be there for a few years.
Buyouts are a non-issue if they lose enough games. You know that USC.
It will be at USC, yeah. I'm just saying,
pockets and deep-pocketed donors.
Like I said, though, Jen Cohen did not fire Jimmy Lake. It's widely known that Dr. Kause fired Jimmy Lake.
Yeah.
So,
but I digress. USC. I'm certainly tuning in on Friday. I'm just fascinated to see what happens more than anything.
I want to see that. I want to see how good USC's running game is, because it's going to get their defense. It's going to get tested, that running game. So,
yeah. And moving on down, Iowa. Why you got to do this to me and make Washington look even worse? Because you go up and lose to the fighting Jonathan Smiths of Michigan State. And unfortunately, all 4 teams in the Big Ten Washington has played lost this week, so their resume looks pretty trash, honestly, at this point. But I digress. Huskies didn't play this week, so I didn't have to suffer anymore for at least 7 more days. But Iowa, man, what are you doing? What are you doing, Iowa? I don't understand you. We know that you run the ball. You don't even attempt to pass the ball. But, man, when it's not working and Michigan State's got just enough dudes to hold up your run game, you have no answers whatsoever. My goodness, like the ultimate one-dimensional team. And again, against Washington, if the run game works, it can really hurt you. But if it doesn't, man. And credit to Jonathan Smith and Michigan State. I thought they're actually doing better than I thought they would this year. I thought they're going to have a pretty tough season, but he's a great coach. He is. And I think he's getting better week to week. I see that Michigan State team improving, and you can already see kind of his philosophy coming in that he got him to success at Oregon State. What do you think, Becky, about the fighting Jonathan Smiths?
This is exactly what Jonathan Smith did at Oregon State.
Yeah.
Slow start, breaking in a new quarterback, breaking in a new system. Let the defense kind of find its traction, and then, boom, beat somebody you're not supposed to beat. Iowa's a team that shouldn't have lost. Michigan State should have lost this game. But they play it. It's not played on paper. It's played in real life. And Michigan State watched that Washington tape and was like, they're not doing that to us. So credit where credit's due. Iowa's defense played terribly, and Iowa's offense isn't good enough yet to kind of overcome when you're getting thumped and you have to actually throw the football and kind of come back. So late in a game like this, they're gonna get beat.
Real quick, PSU Jim points out that Iowa fans don't despair. There's a little bit of silver lining. At least your passing game has overtaken Michigan's.
Yeah.
A little bit of solace.
I will say this for Iowa, I don't want to rub it in. The kicker for Michigan State scored 18 points. The kicker. Mm-hmm. Iowa's entire offense scored 20 points.
I mean, that defense for Iowa is still legit. They bend but don't break. But unlike Washington, you got a kicker that hits it every time. They're going to stack enough points on you to make it hurt. So,
yeah.
Death by a million paper cuts up there in East Lansing, it seems.
Definitely.
Was that all for the week? We had a few teams on.
That was it for the week. We had quite a few buys.
Yeah, I was going to say the real short schedule on that one. It seemed like we've alluded to it a couple of times. But keep chopping. I'm pulling for Rutgers, but it's the ultimate long distance, terrible time zone, just bad situation, coming off kind of a tough loss, but. This'll you want to make a statement, even though they're having a down year. It's always a feather in your cap to go into the Coliseum and beat USC. So I'm pulling for you, and I don't know what the spread or the picks look like. I'm still gonna have to mull this one over. But
USC minus 14.5.
Oh, USC. Rutgers all day then, all day.
Yeah, take that.
Take the points.
Was at 14.
Yeah, run to the bank for the Scarlet Knights. My goodness.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's. USC is trying to salvage their season. Rutgers, this is a get-right game for you. But I don't know. It's tough to gauge Rutgers, I guess. It's tough to gauge a lot of teams because I think the whole conference has been flipped on its head. You got teams like Indiana undefeated at this point, and Illinois is, doing incredible. So it's really hard to gauge kind of where this whole thing shakes out. I know that my preseason predictions are absolutely shot at this point.
Yeah. I think USC wins the game. It's going to be tight. I'm going to take USC. If I was betting, though, I'm taking Rutgers.
USC wins, but Rutgers covers kind of thing.
Yeah, USC wins, but Rutgers covers. But, it just depends on how motivated USC is going to be. But a night game on a Friday at the Coliseum, it's at 8 p.m. Pacific time. USC fans are going to show up. Now, how many of them show up? Because they're 3-4 right now. And USC fans are smart. They know not to show up when the team is garbage. It's LA. There's a million other things to do than spend your money, your $16 to watch your favorite team get beat. So
yeah, you want the contrast of a football team in Los Angeles versus, no offense, Bloomington, Illinois, 16 versus $121. And sometimes it's nice being the only show in town.
But I'd say this: if that was 7-0 USC playing like 6-1 Rutgers, that ticket would be like $2,000. So that tells you USC fans just are like, oh, I'm getting rid of my tickets.
Yeah, the Washington tickets last year, I think, were $250 just to get in the door.
Yeah, to like sit in a seat where you couldn't see half the stadium.
But Moen, are you going to be plugging this one into your parlay? You got a strong.
No, I'm waiting for the SEC officials to send me my $64 back.
There you go.
Rutgers, though, if I'm Rutgers, Monongahela, right up the middle. USC is soft in the middle.
Yeah,
they are.
They're Alexander.
They're soft in the middle. They'll have to pull their linebackers up when the other linebackers up, stack the box, and you can get some passes off. And then in the fourth quarter, if you keep running Monongahela and he's still holding up, USC will collapse. I mean, that's the path for Rutgers to beat USC.
Agreed.
PSU Jim pointing out, a certain World Series game appears to be played in Chavez Ravine on Friday.
Yeah,
if you're into that sort of thing.
More people will be tuned into that than USC this week.
Yeah,
mostly because it's the Yankees and they hate them.
I can't think of a World Series I'm less interested in than this one. I'm not the world's biggest baseball fan, but I'm kind of over it, to be honest. Yeah. Moving on. We got Nebraska against the Ohio State. Moen, how you feeling? I have a feeling you're confident, but I guess it's the proverbial does Ohio State cover question.
I am confident, but I am also worried about one aspect. Apparently, Dylan Raiola might be nursing an injury. I saw Greg Pflugar earlier on Twitter saying that they should sit him. For the love of God, do not sit Dylan Raiola.
Greg Pflugar said they should sit Dylan Raiola.
Sit him for this game. Just accept it as a loss. I hope that doesn't happen.
No.
I think decommitment should have consequences. I think Knowles and Johnson should tell the guys to pin their ears back and hit that kid about 15 times. That would be my, what I would prefer. But yeah, I think if he is injured, they might sit him so as not to completely shatter. Because some people have said, if you look on Twitter, some Nebraska fans have said too, his mechanics have been off since the Illini game. And they think that's due to an injured ankle of some sort on his planting foot. So,
well, it does make sense. There was a throw that he did do when I was watching a little bit of the game. There was a throw that he tried to put over the top of the defender into his receiver's hands, and he did not throw off his back foot. He pretty much just chucked it with his front foot. His foot was never on the ground. It was never set, and it sailed and it got picked or batted down or something like that. But yeah, if he's hurt and injured, if he's still your best shot, you kind of have to go with it. If I'm Nebraska, I'm stacking that box and I'm telling Ohio State to try to throw it on me because I know I can put pressure. Nebraska still put a ton of pressure on Indiana's quarterbacks. Case in point, Indiana's starter is not playing this week. So you can hit them. They will get pressure on the Ohio State quarterbacks. Can they slow down that two-headed monster? Because Oregon wasn't able to do it. If you got to go back, watch what Oregon did, try to emulate it to the best of your ability because Nebraska still has really good defensive athletes. Can they stop that running game? Because Ohio State's going to run it down their throat. And if they get to the edge, good luck because you don't have nobody in the country has the athletes if they get to the edge. Nobody. Oregon found that out. You have to keep them in the center of the field and give yourself a good shot. With that, 25.5. If Raiola doesn't play, I'm taking Ohio State at the points.
Yeah, Ohio State usually coming off a loss, they want to make a statement win. And they will, after seeing what Indiana did to Nebraska, they will probably try to do similar.
Yeah, I fully expect Ohio State to try to come out and blow them out. I also expect Matt Rule, he's going to be on his team like white on rice this whole week to try to avoid back-to-back embarrassing games. And I do think Nebraska is going to come out. This game's going to be a little closer than it would be, but if Raiola doesn't play, it's a complete blowout. They don't have anything after Raiola, so he has to play. Like one ankle or not, he probably has to play.
Yeah, I got to say the body language from Raiola last week was not good for me. I get he might be nursing an injury. I could certainly see the thing where he tries to go, the game starts to get away from him early, and then they sit him for the rest of it and just write it off. We'll see. It's been a fast start and a kind of a tough slog ever since in Lincoln. But that's the up and down roller coaster for playing a freshman quarterback. Moving on to the big one, College Game Day. And as Illini Ted rightfully points out, College Game Day, and the game's going to be on the Big Ten Network. Have we ever seen that, where the featured big matchup of the week is put on the network? I saw our friend of the show, Immaculate, saying that he thinks it's just to spite ESPN that none of the Big Ten people selected it.
It's actually because there is a contractual obligation for each team to play so many games on the Big Ten Network. And the stretch Indiana has come, Indiana still owes them a game. The stretch Indiana has coming down the road with Ohio State, Michigan, the partners Fox, NBC, and CBS. They want access to those games. So nothing against Washington, but Indiana's got to get that second Big Ten game in, or first Big Ten game in. So
they're at Michigan State next week. You couldn't have thrown it there.
It's
you got your 10 billion rivalries.
No.
I'm just a little bitter about
it. Pickles. They still have to. That network still has to produce ratings. Washington and USC is now on the Big Ten Network, by the way. That will be played on the Big Ten Network.
That one I just chalked up to.
USC
that one I just chalked up to the other games going on that week, like Michigan, Oregon, and Penn State, Ohio State. That made perfect sense. Why we got down the order.
It's also because USC hasn't played on the network. So, like he said, there's contractual things here in play. But this is a great game for them because it's going to draw eyeballs from Seattle because they want to boost that number still. At the same time, it's Indiana playing their first true quote test. We thought it was Nebraska and they blew them out, but this one's going to be different because Indiana wants to throw the ball. Guess what? Washington doesn't allow.
Yeah. Washington may give up a little bit in the running game, but they still have a good secondary. They got good linebackers.
The number 8 secondary, Pickles. The number 8 secondary in the nation.
But they give up bonehead penalties at times.
Yeah, because they're young. They're young and stupid. They do boneheaded things. But even then, when they don't do that, they're really good. Also, apparently, Jed Fish said this today. Don't know if you caught this, but he said Jonah Coleman's been nursing an injury.
Yes. That's the only reason it explains it. Yeah, for non-Washington fans, that dude's an absolute hammer and gets on average. He's averaging almost 6 yards a carry, even against some of these really good defenses. And he was on like a 10, 15 snaps a game, and Washington fans were just pulling our hair out. This is the only explanation that made sense for why you weren't running that guy 20 carries a game, because he's not saying you put up the stats or anything, but he's up there with the Manung guys of the world in terms of production. He puts up yards when you hand him the ball, and it made no sense why they weren't giving him the rock more. So hopefully coming off the bye week, they can lean on him against a good defense in Indiana.
How about you, Mon? You're a neutral party here. What do you say?
Yeah.
I'm picking Indiana.
That's fair.
I know it's their backup quarterback, but my God, what the turnaround Cignetti has done to that team. You've got College Game Day going to Bloomington. I put this on Twitter this weekend. It's interesting. I think it's the first time I can remember in my lifetime seeing Bloomington sold out and filled with Indiana fans.
It's the 4th largest crowd I think they announced ever inside that stadium.
Yeah, usually if Ohio State's playing in Bloomington, it's usually about 60 to 70% Ohio State fans there.
Yeah. And I mean, being that it's $120 to get in the game day there, I expect a very raucous environment from Indiana.
Yeah.
With that, though, Zach Durfee is playing again this week. So the top pass rusher for Washington will play.
He has been healthy since before Michigan.
Yeah, so he's back. Washington got healthy coming off this bye. Now, what we are going to see is this going to turn into a shootout because Washington's going to score points. They can score. They have like one of the best receivers in the conference, and he's on the watch list for the top wide receiver in the nation. So. He's on the finalist list or whatever that is that came out.
Yeah, the Litnikoff watch list.
Yeah. So he's on the watch list.
He's got 9 touchdowns already. He's very good.
Yeah, and Giles Jackson is going to come out of that slot. He's 5'9", but he's probably going to be the fastest guy. He's going to be the fastest player on the field against Indiana. Indiana has not played a running back the size of Jonah Coleman yet. He's 5'9", like 230. The dude he's a bowling ball down there. So if Washington can wear them down, just wear them down.
The only knock I have, truthfully, against Indiana is their schedule up to present is not necessarily the most confidence-inspiring. They've handled business. They've run up huge scores on these teams. You can only play who's in front of you. But so far, they've played UCLA, Maryland, Northwestern, and Nebraska. They haven't exactly played the murderer's row of the Big Ten yet. I would argue, again, full purple hat going on here, that Washington's the best team they've faced so far. I do think Washington's better than Nebraska on a neutral field. You can say I'm crazy. That's fine. But I don't think Indiana's been tested. It's a perfect setup for them to get the big win other than the quarterback being out. Like you said, game day, all the hype, undefeated. The stadium will just be absolutely going crazy. I think if Washington doesn't come out early and, come out swinging, I don't know if they'll get blown out, but I do think the game could get away from the Huskies. I mean, obviously I'm going to have to, pick them to win close, but Washington's got to come out strong or this game can get away from you because Indiana can score.
Yeah. I mean, part of me wants Washington to lose because I want, I want a 3-way tie.
Oh, it's like you're not already on the fire fish train, are you?
No. Fish. No, I think Fish is. I think Fish is a great coach. 50 new players came in. He's done what Dion couldn't do. 50 new players have come in. The defense looks better this year than last year. And yeah, there it is. Indiana's a touchdown favorite. I'll take that every day, any day of the week. But also, we need to talk about what Coy said there about how the TV coverage of this, because West Coast people haven't been able to watch the Big Ten Network until last week. If nobody knew this, Xfinity customers could not watch the Big Ten Network because of a dispute. So Washington, Oregon, and California customers were unable to watch the network. So you're probably going to see a few more of these games on the network because people out here couldn't watch it if they had Comcast. So just saying that. What's next?
Moving right along. I'd say this is my game of the week. Just
Illinois and Oregon?
Teams, Illinois over. I don't mean to sound bad, but Illinois, I think, overperforming general expectations, certainly. They're going to Autzen. It's a rough place to play for anybody, but they got a shot. I'm saying Illinois got a shot. I don't think anyone is just untouchable this year.
No, if they play solid defense against the run, they have a shot. My question is, can they cover the speed of the wide receivers of the Oregon Ducks? I mean, Oregon doesn't throw the ball deep. We know that. But they get the ball in space and let their guys do what they do best, which is run. And they run fast. They're elusive. If I'm Oregon, you need to be able, you got to shut down that running game, make Illinois one-dimensional. If not, Illinois is going to stay and keep that game tight because they want to make that game ugly. As long as Oregon plays their game, Illinois can't beat them. But
real quick, Darth Lucky, we're not talking mad smack on the Oregon receivers. We're just saying the scheme you guys play is get get it to the guys
It's
in
space.
space 5 to 10
It's
yards,
smart.
and let them make plays.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
Gabriel,
smart.
he's just not a downfield passer. Not that he couldn't do it. You guys
No,
just
he
get
will
your
do
dudes
it.
into space. It's what you're good at.
Yeah. He will do it. The question is, they're going to lull them in with those short 6, 4, 5. I think last year it was Bo Nix had the lowest depth ratio for passing yards, and it was a lot of yak. But no, I fully expect Oregon to blow them out. But the question is, can Illinois ugly the game? And if Illinois uglies the game and forces Dylan Gabriel to have to throw the football, that becomes an issue, especially if Oregon cannot suddenly stop the run against Illinois. If Illinois is running the ball really well, like they did against Michigan, they're going to play keep away and keep the Oregon offense off the field.
Yeah, I have to disagree with the Dylan Gabriel can't throw downfield.
No, we know.
I said he
no.
can.
We know he can.
Their scheme doesn't ask him to very much.
Yeah,
but when they do, it's against an Ohio State cornerback who bites on a stutter step.
Keep in mind, Becky and me are totally our scale of downfield passing is totally warped because we got to watch Michael Penix for 2 seasons.
Right.
So I would disregard our opinion.
And Washington still chucks the ball downfield most of the time. So
I got to give credit to Illini Ted. He will bring this up. 2007, right after Ohio State became number 1 in the country, Illinois rolled into town and upset them.
Do you want to say hi to the people, buddy? Say hi.
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 My son Calvin can't pick the Ducks. Sorry, Darth Ducky, but I've raised him well. He's a Husky through and through.
Yeah, so I listen, 25 points.
No, I'd take Illinois. I'd take Illinois just on the points. Oregon for the W. Illinois for the points. Mostly like we said, we just saw what they did last week. They didn't just they kind of blew out Purdue. I mean, kind of. Didn't really, but definitely. That counts as a blowout, right, Moen? We count that as a blowout?
35, 5 touchdowns. It's, I think they covered the spread, too. I think the spread was 28.5. So, yeah. But listen, I'm not going to sleep on Illinois. It wouldn't shock me if Illinois has this close game at halftime.
No. I think they're going to ugly it up for as long as they can. But I think Oregon just has too much depth and too much talent. So they'll extend it.
We can talk about Northwestern and Iowa now, if you guys really want to.
Why?
I think I was subliminally trying to avoid it, just in my mind, because this is a no-win situation for Washington. We played them both. They both looked terrible at times.
Watch Northwestern or watch Iowa drop 50 on them, and Northwestern score 40.
Yeah,
that's kind of how this goes. I don't know how to explain Northwestern to people. They look, was it Rutgers the week before Maryland looked great against Maryland. They can do no wrong against Maryland, and then the next week they didn't score another touchdown. Iowa, great against UW, absolutely amazing. Terrible the next week. I don't know what this game is the ugliest game on the conference schedule until
I will
whether
say
Iowa
if Northwestern wins that game, Kirk Ferentz is going to get fired at the end of the season. I don't care what he's done for that school.
No. Really?
If he loses to Northwestern at Iowa City, he's getting fired.
You think it's that bad?
He's going to get pushed into retirement. They're basically going to give him the Paterno treatment.
I've had it in my mind that he was going to retire anyway, unless they had some magical season. I've been getting the vibe that he's kind of getting there. But that, outsider's opinion. Ferentz has always been at Iowa, and I think that this new college football world and certainly this new Big Ten is not going to suit his style of play for much longer. I think other teams are going to slowly pass him by as the competition gets more fierce with 18 teams.
The game is passing him by.
I
mean, they had a great day against Washington, but again, Washington had more yards. They just didn't score. and that's a Washington problem. But come on, you can't if this game is 6-3 and Iowa wins, I still think they're the boosters are going to start getting a little annoyed at Iowa if they can't score points on this Northwestern team. At what point do you say as an Iowa fan, we're tired of the worst offense in the conference? At what point do you do it? Because Michigan fans have only had it for 2 games, and they hate life.
Yeah, I agree with Daniel Gygax here. It'll be a forced retirement.
Yeah. They'll have a going away and a whole fancy send-off and everything, but it won't be by choice.
He's earned it.
Yeah.
He should have taken that money from the NFL. All those times the NFL came calling, he should have taken it because he's playing an NFL style in college football, and it doesn't work.
You know what team I always thought he would have been perfect at? Just the color scheme and the attitude. If Pittsburgh was ever looking for a new coach, man, he would have been the guy.
He's too old now. He's
now,
too old.
but I mean even back then. But Mike Tomlin's been coaching since forever.
Well, they've only had 3 coaches at Pittsburgh since 1968 or something like that. 50 years, they've had 3 coaches. That's it.
Ironically, much like Iowa.
Yeah, pretty much like Iowa.
They're the NFL doppelganger.
But unlike Iowa, they have championships in that time frame.
Yeah, sad but true. Yeah, that's a slugfest. If you want a throwback vibe Big Ten football, then have at it.
I believe we call that Tuesday night Maction.
Yeah, that's one for the sickos committee. If you guys out there know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I think we got 1 or 2 more coming up. There's several buys this week, so it's a short schedule. Maryland, Minnesota. Do we have strong thoughts on this one? Are the Fighting Cougars gonna get another win?
Yeah.
Do you think so?
I like Minnesota. It's at Minnesota. I like Coy Perch. He's a dude. He's developed and probably the best freshman safety in the Big Ten. So give me Minnesota, but it'll be a tight game.
So Loxley's going to turn back into the pumpkin he always does, where October, November hits and he can't win a game anymore. I
think Maryland is good enough team to make them do that, but also I think PJ Fleck is stupid enough to do that.
Jeez. Yeah, if this gives me any vibe, it feels kind of like when Minnesota played North Carolina at home, where they could have run away with that game multiple times and just let them hang around. I get the same vibe. They're going to let Maryland hang around. Maybe they pull it out at the end, but it's probably going to be a fairly uncomfortable experience, I think.
Yeah.
Tony Vlashin saying his Gophers need this game bad. Yeah, if you're pushing for, bowl game or better, or even like a high, placing bowl game, that you got to get one.
Yeah, especially because now that Wisconsin game looks like it's going to be one-sided.
All right, moving on to probably one of the top 2 featured games of the week. I'd say Penn State going to Camp Randall. I know Ryan Willie's on pins and needles for this one. Moen, you're the expert in our Big Ten Wheel of Misfortune. Is Penn State doomed to have their James Franklin brain fart game? Is it due this week in Camp Randall?
Camp Randall at night is a very tough environment. Those kids start drinking at noon.
They can drink at the stadium now.
They can measure it on the seismograph when they do jump around. If Penn State's not careful, this defense for Wisconsin has looked stout the last 3 games. They have looked, like a Luke Fickell defense.
Much improved, certainly.
My only concern is, are they able to put up enough points against Penn State? Because Penn State is going to put up some points.
Well, it's like what our friend PSU Jim here said. Ohio State is next week for Penn State.
Yeah.
This is a trap.
Don't want to overlook it.
Yeah, you can't overlook it.
You can't overlook it, but this is the definition of trap game.
Yeah.
The game they should go in and win, because Wisconsin's not great. They're good, not great. But it's a night game on the road against the quality opponent. Everything's set up for a trap.
I think Penn State wins, but I'm not going to be shocked if Wisconsin somehow knocks them off.
Yeah, I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
The next week's game is that at Ohio State.
It's at Penn State this year.
So.
Yeah, this may give away my pick against the spread, but I honestly think this game's a complete pick 'em. I think straight up, just flip a coin on Penn State, Wisconsin. I have no idea.
It depends on how well Penn State can run the football, really. Wisconsin's been very good lately, shutting that down. They did a pretty decent job on Alabama, but Alabama just wore them out. But Penn State doesn't have a quarterback like, Milroe, who can just take off and do all sorts of stupid things. Night game at Wisconsin, jump around. They can drink in the stadium. They're going to be liquored up all day. This is I'll be shocked if the stadium doesn't fall apart. Let's see if they play Mo
Rocket
Bamba
to the foundations.
They're going to troll him with Mo Bamba to start the game. Watch.
Yeah. And if you need a game to flip over for the commercial breaks for Penn State, Wisconsin, you got the Battle of the State of Michigan. What's the actual name of this rivalry? There's a trophy for it. I always forget.
This is the Little Brother Trophy.
The Little Brother Trophy. Well, you got like two Paul Bunyans.
Hart.
You got a Floyd of something or other.
Yeah,
you got a Spittoon. You got all these wacky trophy games, and then this. I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I don't.
The Little Brother Trophy.
We'll call it the Little Brother Trophy. I don't keep up on what this hasn't been an intense rivalry though since Mark D'Antonio took over at Michigan State. I think Michigan State actually leads the series from when he was hired. I mean, but boy, it's at Michigan though. I have to think being in Ann Arbor, but then again, the Michigan State at Ann Arbor has pulled off some incredible upsets.
We all remember the attempted punt that flew out the back and straight into the end zone, probably one of the biggest last-second scores of all time.
I mean,
anything's possible.
Night game in the Big House, in-state rival. Yeah, the last time I think that happened was the infamous punt. But God, too bad Michigan doesn't sell alcohol in the stadium until next year.
I will say, I think Michigan State. I'm still really debating whether they have a shot because, like you said, Moen, they've had some tough weeks, and this kind of feels like no, we're back at home. We're going to put our foot down and prove we're still an okay, competent team. But Michigan State, Jonathan Smith, they get stronger as time goes on throughout the year. That's kind of been his MO. As the season goes on, they get better and better and better. Michigan, you could be hitting that cliff, man. If you lose this one, man, heads are going to roll. I don't even know if Jerome Moore makes it to Ohio State.
No. Also, should note what's the one game he could get the Oregon State Beavers fired up for?
True.
The Oregon game. Like he's
true.
He is going to get them fired up for this game because Oregon State won a game one year they shouldn't have won under Jonathan Smith against the Ducks, and then he ran the ball 30 plus times another year to beat the Ducks. So he's going to get them fired up. The question I have is who's playing quarterback? How good will the quarterback play be? Because Michigan State has the best quarterback out of the two teams, which I didn't think we were going to be able to say Moen at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, he's the most talented, but he's also prone to mistakes.
You can say the same thing about Michigan's. Every one of Michigan's quarterbacks prone to mistakes.
I don't even know if they're talented, man.
Tuttle is clearly. I think Tuttle is the best option for Michigan, but if he's running the ball, teach the kid to put both hands on the football because I think he's lost 4 or 5 fumbles now. He's just been awful when he's getting tackled with the ball.
Illini Ted saying if they loses, they're not making a bowl. That's a bold call. At 4-3, I mean they got I don't know who's
they have Michigan
down the stretch.
They've got Oregon, Indiana, and Ohio State coming down the line.
Yeah, and Northwestern. Yeah,
they'll beat Northwestern. Wow. Yeah, they have to win this.
They'll beat Northwestern, but Illini Ted, you're right on with that one. Right. That's not as bold a call as I originally thought.
Who'd have thought 6 months ago when we got the schedule that Indiana's looming as a game for Michigan to lose? Nobody thought this.
Let's call it now. If Michigan loses and let's say it's not on some last minute fluky crazy play, let's say Michigan State just beats them fair and square, does Sharon Moore make it to the Ohio State game?
Yeah, he'll make it through the season.
He's going to make it through the year. But,
I think he'll make it through next season too. So I'm not.
Well, I'll say this. I'll say this. If Michigan beats Indiana, I will come on here and I will chug an entire Bud Light straight up out of the bottle, I will chug the whole bottle live on the show.
Why are you challenging yourself to something that you do every day?
Because I'm that confident that Indiana's going to beat them, and I don't have to drink a whole beer in like 2 seconds on a freaking Monday night.
Let me put it this way. I'm wearing the UCLA hat. I'm hoping to start a trend. The Michigan State hat is on the rack. Next week, Michigan State.
There you go.
I'm wearing the Sparty hat.
Darth Ducky, the game is in Columbus this year.
Yeah.
And
that's looking horrible for Michigan fans. I think they gets it there.
I think they get Oregon and Indiana at home though.
They do get Oregon and Indiana at home. I did look.
So that's good for them, but
yeah, Oregon.
Exactly.
Yeah, what he said.
But lots to do. That it for the week?
That's it for the week. We got again. We have the two buys
again. This is
two buys this
year.
Buy season. So yeah.
Moen, we talked about it on, I think you mentioned it yesterday on your show, but do we just want to throw up our pick'ems from the last week and see how we did?
If you really want to.
I mean, I'll take my licks, but honestly, overall, I think all I've proven is that no research, just vibes is a better picking strategy than actually knowing what you're talking about.
I'll be honest,
I'm doing okay.
I didn't know the first half of it. We were actually picking against the spread.
Man.
Since we've done that.
Playing this on hard mode, just like picking upsets left and right straight up.
I was. I keep doing it. And it keeps working. I'm trying. Yeah. We're all trying to catch Rock. God.
Yeah, I think that Rock's good at this. If you've seen the other pick'em where they do it with a bunch of other channels on Twitter, Rock is killing everyone. He's just, I don't know if he's throwing money down in real life, but he's got a knack for it. I will say that the state of picks this week, with the majority of us going under 500, except for Moen, this is my one for the road. We'll just roll right through them. The SEC and this whole, it just means more, and all of our teams are good, and no one's actually bad. I think that took a massive hit this week when Texas lost, and you're like, oh, wait, but Texas lost, and Georgia lost, and Alabama lost, and Tennessee, what are we doing? Who do we cheer for now? I thought we had 4 playoff teams. I know that they're doing damage control on all the talk shows about how deep the conference is, but I think that narrative is taking a hit. And this whole SEC deserves 4 playoff spots. I think that's starting to go away, and I'm kind of happy to see it. Becky, what's your one for the road, or do you have a follow-up comment to me?
Well, just so Illini Ted is, since he asked, yes, I do just chug beers and throw darts.
Correct.
I can chug a beer. Now, okay, so here's the thing. I fully believe that eventually the Big Ten and the SEC will have 8 automatic qualifiers for each. But can we just say how a penalty can be overturned because kids threw trash on the field? Can we just the Big 12 didn't even do that for Texas.
Yeah.
I thought things were going to be a little different for the Longhorns being in the SEC, where they're no longer the top dog on the planet, you know.
But Becky, it just means more.
Well, it means more to the bettors because, like Moen said, you know, the SEC owes them like $60. They screwed him. Like, yeah. I've never seen that before. Like I was watching it with a Texas, a Georgia, a Tennessee, and Alabama fans. I was watching it with friends who went to those schools. One of my friends, his dad played for Bear Bryant. Like, this is insane to like sit here and say like, how is that possible? Moen, how's that possible?
Listen, I went on a rant about it last night.
That's what I was asking.
Yes, it was great.
Texas fans have basically shown everybody in the conference, don't like a call, throw shit on the field. There won't be any. Oh, you'll fine Texas $250,000. The university has what, like a $9 billion endowment?
I was going to say, aren't they the second or top with Ohio State in terms of like wealthiest athletic departments every year?
Yeah, $250,000. They'll make that up in alcohol sales within 1 week. So listen, it's a bad look for the SEC. They should have been. Okay, you're going to pick up the penalty. You still should have put a penalty on Texas for the behavior of the fans.
Yes.
That should have been an unsportsmanlike call. That's it. They shouldn't have picked. If you make a bad call, you make a bad call. Calls cannot be reviewed. Suddenly, if you throw shit on the field and cause an 8-minute delay and run the film up on the big screen like the Zapruder film and, go back into the left and let the referees watch it, you can get calls overturned.
Yeah.
It just
but the narrative, Moen, the narrative.
Well, the narrative is they gave Texas 7 points and screwed me out of the under on my same game parlay. And I want my $64 back.
So that's the real reason you're mad.
Well, no, Darth Ducky said it the best. They opened up a can of worms by doing this. That was a pass interference call that was overturned.
Yeah.
When the NFL allowed reviews of the pass interference calls, they didn't overturn them at all. They're like, no, even the most blatant. You're like, that shouldn't have been called.
Yeah. They've got rid of it because it's so arbitrary and ridiculous.
Like,
but yeah,
every single thing that happens.
Like Moen's saying, you screw up the call, whatever, but then to not penalize Texas for it's either delay of game or unsportsmanlike.
It's unsportsmanlike.
I've seen that before where fans throw crap on the field and they give them 15.
Yeah, they do it all the time. Every year happens. It happens every year.
But, got to protect your favorite special children. And
as Cleveland Browns fans, they do it the most. 15 yards in the NFL.
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns fans do it to their own team, though. So,
I mean,
don't have any sympathy
what's
on
15 when you're already losing? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is they had called it.
Yeah.
They have put the ball. They had spotted the ball.
Yep.
To play. Trash goes on the field. 8 minutes later, they come back and say it's not pass interference, and they respot the ball.
Yeah.
You would never see that. That stuff would not happen at Big Ten games simply because Big Ten fans will not waste beer. Will not happen.
No, they'll just storm the field and let it be known. No, I'm just trying to think in my head, like, I've never heard of a bad call. Just, hey, let's just, like, what people think is a bad call because the fans reacted to it as a bad call. Just let's overturn that. By the way, this isn't like they did it to Vanderbilt. They did it to Georgia.
Yeah. In a game that is like huge implications for the SEC championship.
Like the second most watched game of the year, ESPN put it out there.
Everybody saw
most watched. They had 10 million viewers on 2 different games at the same time. It's unheard of. Like, this was a huge game for Georgia and Texas. And the only team that had Texas won this game, what would we be talking about today? Like how the SEC screwed Georgia. Like if that was the difference, man, Georgia fans would lose their minds. Would they? They can't overturn the points. I just don't understand. 1, how, and 2, why. They video replayed this because this came from somebody in the SEC. This was not the refs. Refs didn't just sit down and talk about it. No, they got a little bug in their ear. This is like
Sankey was sitting in the boxes.
Yeah, the only time I've ever seen this happen was USC and Washington State a couple of years ago. You remember that? Where the Pac-12 got involved in a play they should not have gotten involved in. But it's the only time I've ever seen it happen.
That the conference, a dude got fired because, the reviews go to the conference head office and someone intervened from the background to basically, it wasn't in USC's favor. It was a PI call that was super
call, super blatant.
I mean,
and it screwed
here's
Washington
my thing.
State
We
out
all
of the win.
complain about refs. Bad calls happen in every game, every week. We all accept it. We know they're going to happen at some point to your team or in your team's favor, but you accept them and you move on. If that one call is the reason you lost the game, you probably didn't deserve to win. Okay.
Oh,
so
by the way,
anyway.
do need to point out that the University of Texas has started sending text messages to students.
Yeah, canceling their tickets.
Tickets have been revoked. So
Big Brother's out to get you. They know where you are.
Like, cameras are everywhere, people, and they're going to put your face next to your student ID, and they're going to figure it out. But at the same time, I'm like, you can't overturn it just because the fans booed you. They
Yeah.
boo every call. I mean, we've seen the most blatant, obvious face mask calls where helmets get completely ripped off, and the helmet thrown, and they'll call a penalty, and the fans still boo.
Yeah. Well, Texas and Bottlegate aside, Becky, you got anything else for us coming up in the week?
We're in like day number 8 of 56 consecutive days of football.
Love it.
So got Monday Night Football, which is a decent game right now.
Get some
and then
action going. Let's go.
Action, some Conference USA-tion. I don't know what to call that.
We're fully embracing the Big Ten culture, Mo, and we're getting Maction
And-
as I cook dinner
and
for my family. I just got it going on my phone.
I want to point out, I think it was on 3. They put out their top 12. They did not have the G5 champion as the number 12 seed. They had him as a 10 seed. They had LSU as a 12 seed. So
Interesting.
might see, and it was Boise State. So we might
Boise's
see,
good.
They're good. We might
Yeah,
start
Boise's
seeing
good.
this G5 creeping in there.
Their only loss is to Oregon, and if Oregon, you're losing.
It was a
your
close
loss
one,
to
too.
A team
That was a
that's
close
number
game.
1.
So that's my big thing. Watch these G5s, people. Like, they're playing Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays right now. If you can watch them, watch them. They're really, really good. It's really good football. And one of these teams is going to get the invite. Who it is, I don't know. Probably be Army, because they'll probably magically beat my Navy midshipmen. People don't know I was in the Navy before I went to Washington. So
Go Navy, beat Army.
go Navy, beat Army.
Good Navy beat Notre Dame.
There you go.
Yes. See,
Moen,
if they beat them, I'm on that train, and Army can beat them too. Because they're both on their schedule.
Will certainly be a good one. Mo, and you got your Texas rant out of your system. Go ahead and close us out.
I just want to say good luck to the Michigan State Spartans. I'll be rooting for you. Sparty on.
And fighting Jonathan Smith.
I'm not rooting for the Illini. Sorry, Ted. I'm not rooting for the Illini. I kind of want to see Illinois win, but it's in Autzen and it's a night game. Good luck. Good.
Yep, absolutely. And as friend of the show, Timothy Green, please like, comment, subscribe, share. We absolutely appreciate you guys being here for our Big Ten Mafia show coming to you Mondays, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. Please feel free to check out our other shows coming up in the week. Got Big 12 Mafia, Big Freaking Friday show. And if you want to have a little bit of levity and watch Moen fly off the handle when his parlays don't do good, please check out Moen After Dark on Sundays. We appreciate everyone being here.
Epic rant last night.
Epic rant. Please go back and listen to it again. But once again, we appreciate everyone being here. From everyone at College Football Mafia, thank you, and we will see you next week.